All right, so you're thinking about launching your startup in either Hong Kong or Singapore, and you're really interested in the whole serviced office scene,
Yeah.
right? We've got this awesome article here that compares both cities, and we're going to break it all down for you now.
Hmm.
Help you make the best decision for your startup.
Absolutely.
Buckle up, though, because we're about to debunk some myths about Hong Kong and
Yeah,
those crazy high costs everyone talks about.
for sure. We're going to go deep on what matters most to startups like yours. Cost, location, flexibility, the whole nine yards.
Yeah.
Oh, and even those cultural quirks that can make or break your experience.
Okay, so before we get into all that good stuff,
Yeah?
can you give us like a quick rundown of what a serviced office even is and why are they such a big deal for startups? I remember when I was starting out, the
Yeah.
thought of signing a long lease was like terrifying.
Totally get it. Serviced offices take all that pressure off. They're like all-inclusive packages for your workspace. You get a fully furnished office, high-speed internet meeting rooms. They even got those fancy coffee machines all ready to go. It's plug and play for your business, which is perfect when you're just starting out, and everything's so unpredictable.
Yeah, you need that flexibility, right?
Big sense.
Startups have to be able to adapt quickly, like if you need to scale up or downsize or even completely pivot.
Got it. With those traditional office spaces, you're usually stuck with long leases and crazy upfront costs. Serviced offices let you grow at your own pace without going bankrupt.
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Okay.
Cost.
Right.
Everyone knows Hong Kong is like ridiculously expensive.
Hmm.
Does that just automatically rule it out for startups?
Here's where things get really interesting. So, while Hong Kong real estate can be super pricey, serviced offices actually offer a surprising amount of financial flexibility.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're not locked into those long leases or huge deposits. Plus, you're sharing overhead costs with other companies in the building. In fact, we found some options in prime areas that cost less per employee than a fancy latte every day.
Wow, seriously.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
it is.
So how does that compare to Singapore, rent-wise? I
Oh,
mean,
on average, you're looking at about 12 to 15 US dollars per square foot every month in Hong Kong. And then for Singapore, it's more like 10 to 13.
okay.
So yeah, Hong Kong's a bit pricier, but the real takeaway here is the lease flexibility in both cities.
Hmm.
You're not making a huge commitment right off the bat, which is a lifesaver for startups.
Okay, so maybe Hong Kong's not totally out of the picture,
Right.
cost-wise.
Yeah.
But what about location? What kind of addresses are we talking about in each city?
Well, in Hong Kong, you've got iconic districts like Central, Sheungwan, Tsim Sha Tsui. Imagine working in one of those super modern skyscrapers, right? You're rubbing shoulders with all the major players in finance, tech, everything.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It's an environment that just screams opportunity.
Yeah, I get that. And what about Singapore? What are their hot spots like?
Singapore is known for its innovation hubs like Marina Bay and Raffles Place. Super sleek and sophisticated, perfect if you've got that global outlook for your business.
So it sounds like location-wise, both cities have those top-tier spots that could really boost a startup's image.
Definitely.
But what about networking? What's the vibe like in each city?
This is where things get interesting. So the networking scenes in Hong Kong and Singapore are pretty different. Hong Kong has this constant buzz and energy. You're always bumping into potential investors, partners, collaborators. It's fast-paced, dynamic. You got to be ready to jump on those opportunities when they pop up.
Yeah, I bet that's super exciting for some founders.
It is for sure. Some people really thrive in that environment.
What about Singapore? Is it a bit more laid back?
Singapore has a different kind of energy. It's this melting pot of cultures, a true global business hub. So you're exposed to tons of different perspectives and connections. Super valuable if you want to expand beyond Southeast Asia.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about cost, location, networking, but let's dig a bit deeper into that whole flexibility thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned lease terms. What else do service offices offer in that department?
Well, they're built to adapt. You can easily scale your space up or down, add more desks, upgrade your meeting room, downsize if you need to. It's all super easy.
And you can like customize these spaces, right? Make
All
it
right.
match your brand.
You got it. You're not stuck with some boring cookie cutter office. A
Mhm.
lot of these serviced offices let you choose your layout, the furniture, even add your own branding. You can create a space that really feels like yours.
That's awesome, especially when you're trying to establish your brand.
Exactly.
Okay, we're going to dig even deeper into what makes each city unique in just a bit.
Yeah.
But for now,
Yeah.
let's talk tech.
Yeah.
Like, what good is a cool office space without crazy fast internet and all the latest gadgets? Right. Especially for startups, tech is everything.
You're totally right. And the good news is both Hong Kong and Singapore are like tech powerhouses. We're talking fiber optic internet, crazy fast speeds, 24/7 IT support to keep everything running smoothly.
Oh yeah, that IT support
Yeah,
must be a lifesaver.
it is.
Especially for startups that don't have like a dedicated IT team yet.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Imagine your server crashes right before you launch a big product. Nightmare, right? But in a serviced office, you've got experts on call. They'll get you back online in no time.
Oh, that's huge. Takes a lot of pressure off. What about those gadgets you mentioned?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
what kind of equipment can startups expect?
We're talking top-of-line printers, scanners, video conferencing systems.
Nice.
Basically everything you need to run a modern business without spending a fortune up front.
Right.
Plus, a lot of these places are even using smart office systems now. So you've got automated lighting, climate control, even security features,
Wow.
all designed to make your workday smoother and more efficient.
So tech-wise, it sounds like both cities are pretty much neck and neck.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, let's switch gears for a sec and talk about something a bit less tangible. Culture.
Okay.
How does the culture of each city, like Hong Kong and Singapore,
Right.
how does that impact the whole startup experience?
Culture plays a huge role in business.
Yeah.
In Hong Kong, you can just feel the energy. Everyone's driven to get things done quickly and efficiently.
Hmm.
Relationships matter, but trust usually comes from doing business together, not before
Those sting.
it's dynamic, competitive even. But it can be super rewarding too.
Yeah, I've heard people say that Hong Kong is the place where you can go from idea to launch super fast.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Wow.
There's definitely that sense of urgency and possibility
Yeah.
in the air.
So how's that different from Singapore?
Well, Singapore is known for its multiculturalism, harmony, and order. There's a real sense of community, a focus on collaboration,
Okay.
which makes it a super supportive environment for startups. But it's also a very rules-based society,
Right.
which can be good and bad.
Yeah, how so?
Well, on one hand, you've got clear guidelines and a stable environment,
Yeah, that makes sense.
but it can sometimes feel a bit less flexible.
Gotcha. So it sounds like no matter which city you choose, startups really need to be adaptable and aware of those cultural differences.
Absolutely. And don't forget about government support. That plays a huge role in shaping the startup scene, too. Both Hong Kong and Singapore have governments that are really promoting innovation and entrepreneurship.
Oh, that's interesting. What kind of initiatives are we talking about?
Well, in Hong Kong, there's InvestHK, a government department that's all about attracting foreign investment and supporting startups.
Okay.
They've got all sorts of programs like funding, mentorship, incubator spaces. And then in Singapore, there's Startup SG.
Okay.
It's a government initiative that's like a one-stop shop for startup resources, grants, tax breaks, even special visa programs just for entrepreneurs.
Wow, that's awesome. Sounds like both cities are really going all out to attract startups.
They are. And it's working. Both Hong Kong and Singapore are now considered major startup hubs, attracting talent and investment from everywhere.
Okay, so we've talked about tech, culture, government support. Let's go back to the community aspect of serviced offices for a minute.
Sure.
You mentioned like a built-in network of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does that actually play out day to day?
Okay, so imagine this, right? You're grabbing a coffee in the shared kitchen, and you end up chatting with someone
Yeah.
who's working on a similar problem to you.
Okay.
Or maybe you go to a workshop at the serviced office, and you meet a potential investor.
That's cool.
Yeah, serviced offices really foster that kind of organic connection. You're surrounded by people who get the whole startup life.
Yeah, that shared experience. It
Exactly.
must be really valuable.
It is. And it's not just casual chit-chat. It leads to real collaborations and partnerships.
Yeah.
I know startups who met their co-founders, investors, even their first clients through their serviced office community.
Wow. That's awesome. Okay, so we've talked about all the great things about serviced offices.
Yeah.
But let's be real.
Yeah.
There's got to be some downsides, right? Nothing's perfect.
True. One thing is, you might not have as much control over your environment compared to a traditional office.
Right.
You're sharing the building with other companies.
Yeah.
So you might have limitations on noise levels, customization options, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I can see that.
So if privacy and control are super important to you, maybe a serviced office isn't the best fit.
Makes sense. What about distractions? Like you're surrounded by people working on all sorts of stuff.
Right.
Could that be a challenge?
It could be. Some people love that bustling environment, but others need peace and quiet.
Yeah.
It's important to know yourself and choose a space that works for you.
So it's all about finding the right fit,
Mm-hmm.
both for the city and the actual office space.
Absolutely. And luckily, there are so many options in Hong Kong and Singapore. From quiet co-working spots to those super vibrant social hubs.
Yeah.
You can definitely find something that suits your personality and your business goals.
All right, let's get back to the big question.
Okay.
Hong Kong or Singapore for startups?
Right.
What are the key takeaways?
Both cities have incredible opportunities, but with their own unique vibes. Hong Kong is all about action, fast-paced energy, taking advantage of that flexibility and cost-effectiveness.
Hmm.
You're surrounded by potential partners and investors.
Right.
There's just this constant sense of opportunity.
Sounds exhilarating.
It is. It can be pretty intense, too.
Yeah, I bet.
But some founders, that's what they thrive on.
What about Singapore? What makes it stand out?
Singapore offers a more stable, structured environment, strong government support,
Yeah.
diverse global network.
Mhm.
You've got tons of resources and expertise at your fingertips. Plus, it's just so easy to do business there.
So it really depends on what kind of startup journey you're looking for.
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong answer. Both cities are great. It just depends on your goals, your priorities, even your personality.
Okay, we've covered a lot today, but before we wrap up, I want to make sure we touch on one more important thing: culture.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's something startups really need to be mindful of.
For sure.
So what are some key cultural things that startups should know about when they're deciding between Hong Kong and Singapore?
Well, in Hong Kong, relationships are key. You got to build trust. But those relationships, they usually happen over time through lots of interactions and experiences. It's a dynamic environment, competitive even, but if you're willing to put in the work, it's super rewarding.
I can imagine it takes a certain personality to thrive there.
Yeah, you got to be comfortable with things not always being clear-cut. You got to love networking, building relationships, and you got to be able to adapt quickly.
Gotcha. What about Singapore? What are some of the key cultural things there?
Well, Singapore is known for its multiculturalism, emphasis on harmony and order. There's a strong sense of community and a focus on collaboration.
Right.
But it's also a very rules-based society,
Right.
which can be good and bad for startups.
Yeah, we talked about that before.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, you've got clear guidelines and a stable environment,
Right.
but it can feel a bit less flexible sometimes.
Yeah. It's interesting how those cultural differences really show up in the business world.
It is, and it's something startups need to think about carefully when they're choosing where to set up shop. What works for one might not work for another.
Okay. I think we've given our listeners a lot to consider.
Yeah.
But before we sign off, I want to leave them with one final thought.
Yeah.
So if you had to give one piece of advice
Okay.
to a startup founder
Yeah.
who's totally torn between these two amazing cities,
Right.
what would it be?
You know, it's interesting. The best advice here isn't about spreadsheets
Yeah.
or market analysis. It's about feeling.
Oh, wow.
Think about your startup's vision,
Okay.
the energy that drives your team.
Mm-hmm.
Which city's ecosystem just speaks to you?
So it's about finding the city that feels like the best fit.
Exactly. Does that hustle of Hong Kong, that constant potential for growth and reinvention, does that excite you? Or do you connect more with the structured harmony and global outlook of Singapore? It's not just about finding an office. It's about finding a home for your dreams.
That's such a great point. It's not just the practical stuff.
Right.
It's about that energy,
Yeah.
the vibe that'll really fuel your startup.
Absolutely. Sometimes the best decisions come from the heart, not just the head.
Yeah. Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into Hong Kong versus Singapore for startups.
Yeah,
We covered a ton of ground today,
we did.
from service offices to those cultural differences that make each city so unique.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you're walking away feeling more informed and maybe even inspired
Yeah, I hope
to
so.
take that next step.
Definitely. Remember, there's no one right answer. Trust your gut, do your research, and choose the city that feels right for you and your vision.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.